And we're following breaking news right here on CBS Sports HQ. Juju Smith-Schuster will stay a Steeler. The 24-year-old wide receiver confirming the news himself on Twitter. According to reports, it's a one-year deal worth $8 million. There are some reports out there that he received better offers to go to other teams, but he decided to stick with the Steelers. He put out this tweet just a matter of minutes ago. Can't say it enough. I love you, Pittsburgh. Came in here a young 20-year-old, and you guys embraced me from the moment I got here. Had my back through everything, all the struggles and success. So hard to leave. See you this fall. Let's welcome in our draft expert, Ryan Wilson, to talk about this. So, Ryan, is it a good move for Juju Smith-Schuster and a good move for the Steelers?
First thing, Amanda, I thought you were calling me to talk about Ryan Finley getting cut by Cincinnati, so I'm glad that's on the conversation we're having. We're talking about Juju Smith-Schuster. I was legit shocked that Juju came back, and we sort of heard Jamie talk about it last segment because you thought this wide receiver market was going to be wide open, and it basically turned into a trickle, and by the time it got around to Juju Smith-Schuster, the money was all dried up. So he had offers elsewhere. Jason Lockenfor, our guy, reported that the Ravens actually offered him a $9.5 million in a one-year deal. Lamar Jackson was recruiting him heavily, but he decided to stay in Pittsburgh. You read that tweet where he talked about loyalty, and that's where he began his career. And look, you can think about it this way. It's basically his fifth-year option as a second-round pick. That only happens when you're a first-round pick, so the Steelers get a break on that. If he had been a first-rounder and had they exercised that option, it would have been over $15 million. Instead, it's a one-year, $8 million deal, and it's one less thing the Steelers have to worry about as they move forward through free agency and the draft. They don't have a ton of cap space, so they were strapped already there, but they have Deontay Johnson, they have Chase Claypool, they have James Washington, so they have all the wide receivers coming back. Eric Ebron will be back at tight end, and the thing will just be with Roethlisberger. We know he's returning, and we know Steelers fans are mixed on whether they wanted him back or not, but hopefully he's healthier than he was a year removed from that elbow injury, and he plays at a higher level over the course of the season. He had a great start. They were 11-0, and then the wheels fell off, but I think getting Juju Smith-Schuster back is great news for the Steelers, great news for Big Ben, and hopefully Juju can parlay this into a big season and a bigger payday 12 months from now.
Yeah, and I do want to confirm, our NFL insider Jason Lockenfor confirming that deal 1 year, $8 million. So you kind of mentioned it there, but I want to follow up on this and talk about it a little bit more. His numbers, his production level, made it to the Pro Bowl back in 2018, then dealt with those injuries. His numbers completely fell off the following year, kind of bounced back last season. But what do you think we can realistically expect from him in 2021?
Juju was at his best when Antonio Brown was on the opposite side of the field, and it was unfair to say that 2 years ago the production dropped off the cliff without adding, oh, by the way, Doug Hodges and Mason Rudolph were throwing the ball. But we expected to see a little more last year when Big Ben returned, and maybe part of that was Big Ben just easing back in from that elbow injury. Maybe part of that's just Juju is not a legit #1 receiver, and the market kind of told us that because he wasn't getting paid. We saw Corey Davis get paid, Curtis Samuel get paid, Will Fuller even got a deal that was higher than the one Juju got. So NFL teams apparently don't consider him a legit #1, at least in terms of getting north of $15 million a year. So again, this is an opportunity for him to come back to a town that loves him, to a team that he appears to love to play for, and put up some huge numbers. And if he can do that, 12 months from now, he can get that payday. But this is a situation we knew was going to happen with some positions and some players in the pandemic that depressed the salary cap in such a way that some players weren't going to get paid. And it appears to be, in large part, these big-name wide receivers like Juju Smith-Schuster and Kenny Golladay that we thought might get big deals are having to settle for lesser deals or still waiting to hear their name called.
Ryan, so he is staying. Talk to us about the Steelers when it comes to the draft. I believe your past two, you've had them taking on offensive linemen there. Does this change anything for you?
They still need offensive line help, and if the plan is to run the ball more, and oh, by the way, they're going to need a running back as well, you have to beef up the offensive line. The offensive line was not good in run support last year, and it sort of masked the pass blocking problems because Roethlisberger threw the ball in about a half a second. So you need to bolster up the offensive line. They lost Matt Filer to the Chargers in free agency. I think they had hoped to bring him back. So that's a need. Edge rusher's a need. Bud Dupree signed with the Titans. James Conner is still a free agent. Doesn't appear that they're going to have him back unless something happens later for a cheap deal. But they need help at running back. And they could also use help in the secondary. They lost Mike Hilton to the Bengals. So they've bled off a lot of talent in the last 2 weeks. And they're they're all over these pro days looking for talent to restock the roster, and I think that's the way they're going to have to go with the positions I mentioned. And you could draft 2 or 3 offensive linemen. And oh, by the way, Amanda, you might want to think about getting a quarterback. So if something happens that one of these quarterbacks that I keep talking about, the top 5 guys, are there around 12 or 13, maybe the Steelers thinking about trading up for one of those guys too.
Ryan Wilson, we are still waiting for that Ryan Finley tattoo. It doesn't matter where he goes. That tattoo will follow you, my friend. We'll talk about that off air. All right, that is Ryan Wilson. Thank you so much for hopping on with us to talk about this breaking news from Juju Smith-Schuster. There is his tweet. This is my home. They're going to need a wrecking ball to take me out of here. Pittsburgh, I love you. Let's go.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.